So in today's video, what I thought I would do is a nice close-up video demonstrating something that the LISHI tool shows quite well. I'm not going to take credit for discovering that. I think Tequila Dave on the UK Locksport forum always points out that the AM5 is great for demonstrating the jiggle test. The jiggle test is something you use when you pick a lock to see if a pin is set or not. And let me demonstrate that in a cutaway, and then what we'll do is we'll switch to a close-up so I can get you real nice and close on these numbers and scales, so I can show you how that works. If we have a look at this cutaway, if I just set a couple of pins, and I can show you what the jiggle test looks like and what we're feeling for when we are looking for it and looking for set pins. So what I've done here, what I'm trying to do here is setting some pins. So as you can see, pin 1, 2, 3 and 4 are all set. So the only one I need to set to open this is pin number 5. But obviously in a normal lock you haven't got this cutaway window, so you can't see what you're doing. But when you're feeling through the lock, a set pin will give you just a tiny bit of jiggle. You can see it there on 1. I've got that same tiny bit of jiggle on 2, same tiny bit of jiggle on 3 and 4. But 5 is completely stiff, and of course if I set him, hopefully, just quite a stiff core spring on this, then the lock will open. So what we're feeling for is if you get that slight jiggle when you're testing the pin, then you know to leave that one alone and to move on to the next one, and you're looking for the pin that's stiff and then setting that pin. So let me get a nice close-up in the vise. I've got a couple of American locks we can demonstrate it on, and I'll see you there. So I've got the LISHI set up in the lock there. I'm just going to move the lock out of frame so you've got a nice close-up of the actual pick itself. So if you're not familiar with the LISHI, this is the tensioning arm. Let me just lock the focus for you. There we go. So that's the tensioning arm, and I'm going to be putting clockwise tensioning on that. We have got markings up here which indicate chamber 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. In this particular lock we don't have a chamber 6, so we'll be ignoring that. The numbers at the sides are for decoding, which we're not using, but we are going to pay attention to these little gaps between the lines. The bit that we're actually looking on is this little pointy bit just there on the picking arm. So I'm going to line that up with chamber 1, and we're just going to feel for that one. I'm putting a little bit of tension on it as well. So you can see there that that's springy. If I pull it all the way down to the bottom and let it go, it's springy. We can ignore that one. 2 is exactly the same. 3 is exactly the same, very springy. On 4, it's a little bit stiff, but there's a little bit of a jiggle there. I'm sure you can see that. When I jiggle it, I get movement between this line here and this line here, just about 0.5 millimeter. Just see there, a little bit of a jiggle. And that tells me to leave that pin alone. So we're probably going to be looking at 5. Now 5 has got a little bit of movement, but it's not as much as I've got on 4. It's pretty much stiff, so that's the one I'm going to pick. And there we go, we've got a nice click off that. And if I feel that one now, we've got a jiggle on it, and that tells me that pin 5 is probably set. Pin 4 has still got that jiggle, and now pin 5 has got that jiggle. So we'll leave that one alone. We'll go back to the beginning and start all over again. So pin 1 has still got that nice spring. Pin 2 has got a little bit of movement now. She's stiffened up a bit, but that's still quite a range of movement. We'll leave that alone. And pin number 3, that's pretty stiff. It's a tiny little bit of movement. Certainly not as much as 4 or as 5. So we'll go and click that one. We've got a little click out of that. Let's feel that now. That still feels pretty stiff, so I'm going to click it again. Let's feel him now. And you can see he's got that same jiggle that 4 had initially and that 5's got now. 4's got the jiggle, 5's got the jiggle, 3's got the jiggle. That tells me that those pins are probably set. It could well be that pin number 4 is a 0 lift. You do get that in some locks, which means we don't need to worry about it at all. The danger if we did try and pick number 4, if it is a 0 lift, is that we would overset it and that would cause a lot of problems. Anyway, let's go back to the beginning. So we think we've set 3, 4 and 5. We'll continue to test them anyway. But I think we're probably going to find that number 1 or number 2 is binding now. Number 1 is nice and springy. And number 2, look, very stiff now. It moves a tiny bit, but it's not got the same jiggle that 3, 4 and 5 have got. So I think we can go ahead and pick that one. And we've got to click off that one, so let's feel him now. And he is jiggling. So the jiggle test is telling us that number 5 is set, number 4 is set, number 3 is set, and number 2 is set. You can really see that, you know, on the LISHI, we just see number 1's binding now. And that's what the LISHI is great at showing, as Tequila Dave points out, because you've got that visual guide, because you can see these horizontal lines here. You know, that tiny little movement of the pick tip. Normally you're feeling it with your actual pick tip like this, but once you get used to that little jiggle and know what to feel for, you know to leave it alone and go for the pin that doesn't have that jiggle, like that one there. So let's get this one picked, and there we go, we got this one open. Yeah, so it's just really great to see that in close up, and I think it really demonstrates quite well exactly what it is you're feeling for. You can just see it again there. That is the tiniest of jiggle, but having that visual guide like that gives you an idea of what you're feeling for. Of course, when you've got, you know, a whacking great pick in like this, that movement is very, very tiny, but it is discernible from the pin that needs to be set, from that really stiff pin. And you can actually get your pick in the lock like this and just give it a little wobble like that, and you can see this end of the pick moving, jiggling around, and that can give you a bit of a clue as well until you get used to actually feeling for it through your fingers. Anyway, that was today's video. Hope you found that interesting. And I will leave a little DMAC logo up there for you to subscribe. That's always appreciated, and it helps support the channel and encourage me to keep making videos. So yeah, if you like my videos, hit subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for picking with me today.